They thought I would stay silent, that I was just another name on a spreadsheet, easily crossed out and forgotten. But they forgot one simple truth that every empire builder should know. The one who writes the code holds the power to delete everything. And at 2:04 p.m., when they handed my position to someone who couldn't tell a firewall from a fire drill, they signed their own death warrant. They just didn't know it yet. My name is Clara Morgan, and for the past 7 years, I've been the invisible shield standing between Helix core defense and digital annihilation. Most people in this building don't even know what I do. They see me as the quiet woman who haunts the server rooms at 3 a.m., the one who speaks in acronyms and hexadecimal. They're not wrong. But they also have no idea that their comfortable six-figure salaries, their stock options, their very existence in this chrome and glass tower depends on the code I write in the darkness. The Medusa attack came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was already in the command center, bathed in the blue glow of 17 monitors, each one streaming data faster than most people could read their morning emails. The server room hummed its familiar symphony, a sound that had become more comforting to me than any human voice. My fingers flew across 3 keyboards simultaneously, tracking packet flows, analyzing intrusion patterns, building digital walls faster than they could be torn down. Medusa wasn't just another script kiddie with a vendetta. This was military-grade, state-sponsored. The kind of attack that doesn't just steal data, it burns entire infrastructures to the ground. They were targeting the federal military payment system, a network that processes over $800 million in transactions daily. If they succeeded, every defense contractor in the country would be crippled within hours. Soldiers wouldn't get paid. Weapons shipments would halt. The entire defense supply chain would collapse like dominoes. For 6 hours, I fought them in cyberspace, no bullets, no explosions, just pure mathematics and logic. Algorithms clashing in millisecond battles across fiber optic cables. I could feel their frustration growing with each blocked attempt, each rerouted attack vector. They were good, maybe the best I'd ever faced. But I had something they didn't. I had built this system from scratch. Every line of code, every security protocol, every hidden backdoor, they were all my children. At 5:52 a.m., Medusa retreated, not defeated, but repelled. They'd probe again, I knew, but not today. The attack logs showed 14,000 attempted breaches. I had stopped every single one. My hands were shaking as I typed the incident report, not from fear, but from the adrenaline crash. This is what victory feels like in my world: exhaustion, eye strain, and the metallic taste of too much coffee. There would be no medals, no press conferences, just an encrypted email to General Robert Harlow at the Pentagon, summarizing how I'd just prevented what could have been the most devastating cyber attack in U.S. military history. His response came 12 minutes later, brief and to the point. Ms. Morgan, once again, you've proven why Helix Core has the Pentagon contract. The nation owes you a debt it will never know exists. R.H. I printed that email, not out of pride, but as evidence. In this world, you document everything. Because memories are subjective, but data doesn't lie. I filed it carefully in my desk drawer, next to 6 years of similar commendations, each one a silent testament to battles won in the shadows. The office was starting to fill up around me, the day shift arriving with their lattes and small talk, oblivious to the war that had raged while they slept. I watched them through the glass walls of the command center, account managers, sales executives, marketing specialists. Good people, most of them. But they lived in a different universe. They sold the product. I was the product. As I gathered my things to head home, my phone buzzed. A calendar reminder for tomorrow's board meeting. CEO Richard Bellamy wanted to see me personally beforehand. After 7 years of invisible excellence, something was finally about to change. I should have known better. In my world, change is just another word for vulnerability. And vulnerabilities, as any good security expert knows, exist only to be exploited. The executive floor was a different planet, where my world was all exposed cables and server racks. The 40th floor was marble and mahogany, abstract art that cost more than my annual salary, and windows that turned the city below into a chessboard. I'd been up here exactly 3 times in 7 years. This would be the fourth, and Richard Bellamy himself had summoned me. Clara! Richard's voice boomed across his office, all practiced warmth and CEO charm. The hero of the hour. Sit. Please. He gestured to a leather chair that probably cost more than my car. General Harlow called me personally. 14,000 attacks stopped. Do you know what he said? He said you're the reason he sleeps at night. I nodded, uncomfortable with the praise. In my world, success meant nobody noticed you at all. Clara, I'll cut to the chase. Richard leaned forward, his hands clasped like he was about to share a secret. The Director of National Security position. It's yours. The board meets tomorrow at 2 p.m., but it's just a formality. You've earned this 10 times over. Director of National Security. The title rolled around in my mind like a foreign language. It meant visibility, responsibility. A seat at the table where decisions were made in daylight instead of darkness. After 7 years of being the ghost in the machine, I would finally exist. Thank you, Mr. Bellamy. I won't let you down. I know you won't. He stood, signaling the end of our meeting. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Wear something. Boardroom appropriate. The next day, I arrived at 1:45 p.m. wearing my only suit, black, simple, expensive enough to not look cheap, but not so expensive that it looked like I was trying. The boardroom was already filling up. I recognized most faces, department heads, senior VPs, people who knew my name, but not my face. At 1:58 p.m., the energy in the room shifted. I felt it before I saw her. Evelyn Bellamy entered like she was walking a runway. All long legs and perfect posture, blonde hair that caught the light just right, designer suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. She was 28, fresh from her MBA at Wharton, and carried herself like someone who'd never heard the word no in her life. She took the seat directly across from me, offering a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You must be Clara. Daddy speaks so highly of you. Daddy. Not my father, or Richard. Daddy. A calculated reminder of her proximity to power. At exactly 2:04 p.m., Richard Bellamy stood up. The room fell silent. Before we begin our regular agenda, I have an important announcement. As you all know, the Director of National Security position has been vacant for 3 months. It's a critical role, especially given our expanding Pentagon contracts. I straightened in my chair, ready for my moment. After careful consideration, I'm pleased to announce that Evelyn Bellamy will be taking on this vital responsibility. The words hit me like ice water. Around the table, faces turned between Evelyn and me, confusion evident. Someone had clearly expected a different announcement. Evelyn brings fresh perspectives and, more importantly, strategic relationships that will be invaluable as we navigate the upcoming Pentagon budget reviews. Richard's eyes met mine for just a moment. Clara, of course, will continue in her technical role, supporting Evelyn's vision. Evelyn stood, gracious and poised. Thank you for this opportunity. Clara? She turned to me with that same cold smile. I look forward to learning from your technical expertise, though I think we need to evolve beyond just being reactive. The Pentagon wants partners who can speak their language, not just code. The insult was wrapped in silk, but it was still a knife. She was saying I was a technician, not a leader, a mechanic, not an architect. 7 years of saving this company, reduced to technical expertise. Clara has been invaluable in her current role, Richard added, the past tense hanging in the air like a funeral bell. But Evelyn's right. We need someone who can navigate both worlds, technology and politics. Someone who can have dinner with generals, not just exchange encrypted emails with them. The rest of the meeting blurred past. Strategic initiatives, quarterly projections, market expansions. Words that meant nothing while my career collapsed in real time. I sat there, spine straight, face neutral. While inside, I calculated the exact dimensions of the knife in my back, When the meeting ended, colleagues avoided eye contact as they filed out. Only Tom from legal squeezed my shoulder as he passed, a small gesture that somehow made it worse. Pity was just humiliation's shadow. Evelyn lingered, adjusting her perfect hair. Clara, I meant what I said. I'll need your expertise. After all, someone needs to handle the actual work while I handle the relationships. She paused at the door. Oh, and I'll need all your Pentagon contact protocols by Monday. Daddy says you've been a bit protective of those. Time to be a team player. The boardroom was empty except for me and the echo of broken promises. Outside, the city sprawled 40 floors below, oblivious to the small betrayal that had just taken place. But betrayal, like code, could be rewritten. And I had root access to everything. The walk back to my office felt like a funeral march. 23 steps from the elevator to my door, I counted them, needing something concrete to focus on while my world tilted off its axis. The command center's familiar blue glow welcomed me back, but even that felt different now. I wasn't the guardian anymore, I was just the help. My phone had 17 messages. Word traveled fast in corporate towers. I deleted them all without reading. Sympathy was a luxury I couldn't afford right now. Instead, I opened the Aegis system architecture, 5 years of my life encoded in millions of lines. A digital fortress I'd built from nothing. Tomorrow, it would belong to someone who probably thought Python was just a snake. Evelyn's first email arrived at 4:17 p.m. Subject line, transition planning, urgent. Clara, I'll need a complete system overview by end of week. Please simplify the technical jargon. I prefer executive summaries with visual aids. Also, I've scheduled a meet and greet with the Pentagon team for next Tuesday. You'll attend to handle any technical questions, but I'll lead the discussion. E.B. Visual aids. 7 years of protecting national security. And she wanted PowerPoint slides. I began documenting the Aegis system, but not the way she expected. The official documentation would be complete, technically accurate, and utterly useless without the context only I possessed. Every system has 2 versions, what it appears to be and what it actually is. I would give her the appearance. The core protocols, the ones that actually mattered, lived in my head. The authentication sequences that prevented another Medusa. The pattern recognition algorithms that identified threats before they materialized. The ghost protocols that monitored for insider threats. These weren't just code. They were intuition translated into mathematics. Experience encoded in binary. You couldn't learn them from a manual any more than you could learn to compose symphonies from reading sheet music. By 8 p.m., the office had emptied except for the cleaning crew and me. I liked these hours best. When the pretense dropped and only the work remained. My fingers flew across the keyboard, creating 2 versions of everything. The first, a beautiful facade of documentation that would make Evelyn look competent in meetings. The second, the real knowledge, archived in places only I knew existed. At 11:30 p.m., Tom from legal appeared in my doorway with 2 cups of coffee and a grim expression. That was fucked up, Clara. It was business, I replied, not looking up from my screens. It was betrayal. Everyone knows you earned that position. He set the coffee on my desk. You could sue, discrimination, false promises, creating a hostile work environment. With what proof? Richard was careful, everything was verbal, and Evelyn's credentials are impressive on paper. Her credentials are Harvard Business School and being born lucky, which beats MIT and being born nobody, apparently. Tom watched me work for a moment. What are you doing? Documenting everything for my replacement, being a team player. He knew me well enough to hear what I wasn't saying. Be careful, Clara. The Bellamys have lawyers that eat lawyers like me for breakfast. I'm not going to do anything illegal or unethical. Tom, I'm going to do exactly what they asked, hand over the system to Evelyn. Why do I feel like that's a threat? Because you're smarter than you look. After Tom left, I pulled up the Pentagon security requirements. Page 847, subsection J. All critical systems must maintain operational continuity under designated personnel. Failure to demonstrate competency in system management constitutes breach of contract, subject to immediate review and potential termination of agreements. They wanted Evelyn to have the system. Fine. But the contract didn't say she had to be able to run it. That was the difference between owning a Formula One car and knowing how to drive it at 200 miles per hour without crashing. My phone buzzed. Another email from Evelyn, sent at 11:47 p.m., probably from some wine bar. Judging by the 2 typos. Clara. Forgot to mention, I'm implementing a new reporting structure. All Pentagon communications go through me first. Need to ensure consistent messaging. Please update your protocols accordingly. E.B. I actually laughed. She wanted to control Pentagon communications. She didn't even know that General Harlow only accepted messages encrypted with a specific protocol that changed every 72 hours based on an algorithm I'd designed. She didn't know about the 12 validation steps, the 3-factor authentication, or the fact that any unauthorized change in communication patterns would trigger an automatic security review. I archived her email carefully. Evidence had a way of becoming important at unexpected moments. By 3 a.m., I'd finished the transition documents. 300 pages of beautiful, useless truth. Every diagram accurate, every protocol explained, every system mapped. It would look perfect in her presentations, impress board members who didn't know better, and crumble the moment it met reality. I also sent a single email to General Harlow, using our secure channel. Per Helix Corps executive decision, Evelyn Bellamy assuming director position effective immediately, transitioning all protocols as requested. System integrity maintained pending successful demonstration of operational competency. His response came in 4 minutes. Understood. Competency verification required within 30 days per contract terms. Clock starts now. 30 days. Evelyn had 30 days to prove she could protect what I'd spent 7 years building. I gave her 3. As dawn painted the city gold outside my windows, I saved everything and closed my laptops. The game wasn't over, it had just begun. And unlike Evelyn, I'd been playing it in the dark for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to lose. Week 1 of the Evelyn Bellamy era began with champagne and promises. She transformed the austere conference room into what looked like a Silicon Valley startup. Beanbags, motivational posters, and a coffee bar that cost more than my monthly salary. The Pentagon reports I used to deliver in dense, technical prose became slideshow extravaganzas with animations and stock photos of eagles soaring over American flags. We need to make cybersecurity sexy, she announced to the assembled department heads, most of whom wouldn't know a SQL injection from a flu shot. No more doom and gloom. Our clients want to feel empowered, not frightened. I watched from my newly assigned desk in R&D, a demotion disguised as a strategic reallocation of resources. The view was different here, facing the parking garage instead of the city. But I could still access every system, still see every change she made in real time. Her first improvement was replacing the daily threat assessments with weekly security snapshots, colorful infographics that showed risk levels as smiling or frowning faces. Green smileys for low risk, red frowns for high. She reduced years of nuanced threat analysis to emojis. The second week, she hired a consulting firm, Maxwell Strategic, run by her Wharton roommate, to modernize our Pentagon communications. They charged $50,000 to recommend we use more dynamic language and leverage synergies. They actually suggested we replace cyber attack with digital disruption event because it sounded less alarming. I documented everything, every change, every decision, every casual dismissal of security protocols. My personal server filled with screenshots, emails, and recordings of meetings where she confidently explained technologies she didn't understand. Clara, she called me into her office, my old office, on a Wednesday afternoon. She'd redecorated, naturally. Gone were my monitors and server status displays, replaced with abstract art and a putting green. I need you to simplify the Aegis threat detection system. The Pentagon team is getting confused by all the technical alerts. Those alerts prevent breaches. Each one represents a potential threat vector that, see, that's the problem right there. Threat vector? Just say risk. Our partners don't need a computer science degree to understand security. General Harlow has a computer science degree. Too, actually. Her smile tightened. Well, he's not our only stakeholder. I'm meeting with Senator Bradley's Defense Committee next week. They approve the budgets, and they prefer plain English. She slid a document across the desk. I've drafted a new alert system. Green, yellow, red, simple. I looked at her proposal. She wanted to replace granular threat identification with a traffic light. The same system that had stopped 14,000 specific attacks would now just flash colors like a mood ring. This would reduce our response capability by approximately 80%. I said. It would increase comprehension by 100%. She countered. Implementation by Friday, please. That night, I sent another message to General Harlow. New alert system being implemented per executive directive. Maintaining parallel legacy system for actual threat detection. Official reports will reflect simplified metrics as requested. His response, acknowledged. Real-world tests scheduled in 2 weeks. Be ready. Evelyn didn't know about the Pentagon's random security audits, unannounced penetration tests designed to verify system integrity. She'd never asked, and I hadn't volunteered the information. Why would I? I was just technical support now. By the 3rd week, cracks began to show. A minor breach attempt from Romania took 6 hours to identify using her simplified system, something that would have been caught in 6 seconds using the original protocols. She blamed it on a system lag and had Maxwell Strategic write a report recommending more cloud storage. She started missing things. Small things at first, irregular login patterns, unusual data requests, suspicious IP addresses probing for weaknesses. Her green smiley faces kept smiling while threats gathered in the shadows like storm clouds. The system seems sluggish, she complained during a department meeting. Clara, is there something wrong with the servers? The servers are functioning normally, I replied. They're processing according to the new parameters you established. Then, optimize them. Optimization would require reverting to the original configuration. I don't want excuses, Clara. I want solutions. Have it fixed by Monday. I nodded, making notes. She wanted solutions? I'd give her exactly what she asked for. I'd follow every directive, implement every change, document every decision. And when it all came crashing down, the paper trail would be perfect. That evening, Richard Bellamy stopped by R&D. First time I'd seen him on this floor in 7 years. Clara, how's the transition going? Exactly as directed, Mr. Bellamy. He studied me for a moment. Evelyn says you're being resistant to change. I've implemented every change she's requested. Would you like to see the documentation? That won't be necessary. He paused. She's bringing fresh perspective to the role. Sometimes that means breaking a few eggs. Of course, though in cybersecurity, broken eggs tend to mean broken systems. His jaw tightened. Evelyn has my full support. Clara, I trust you'll remember that. After he left, I pulled up the Pentagon contract. Section 23, subsection C. Contractor must demonstrate maintained or improved security metrics during any personnel transition. Failure to meet baseline standards constitutes immediate grounds for review. Evelyn had 1 week left before the Pentagon's test. 1 week before her fresh perspective met cold, hard reality. I wouldn't sabotage anything. I didn't need to. Reality had a way of sabotaging itself when you painted it in primary colors and called it innovation. The email arrived Thursday morning, marked with the Pentagon's highest priority flag. Evelyn forwarded it to me with a single line. Handle this. Ms. Bellamy. We will be conducting a live security demonstration next Tuesday. 10 a.m. EAUSD. Senior defense staff will observe Helix Corps' threat response capabilities in real time. This exercise will determine continued contract eligibility. Preparation materials attached. General Robert Harlow. The attachment was 400 pages of technical specifications. Evelyn called me into her office within minutes. What is this? She held up her tablet, showing the document. It's a standard Pentagon security audit. They run simulated attacks to test our response capabilities. Her face went pale beneath the perfect makeup. Simulated attacks? Like the Medusa incident? Similar, but observed. The Joint Chiefs will be watching in real time as we defend against their best cyber warfare team. Why wasn't I informed about this possibility? It's in the contract, Section 19. These audits happen randomly to ensure we maintain constant readiness. She stood, pacing in her designer heels. Fine. You'll handle the technical side. I'll manage the presentation. Ms. Bellamy. This isn't a presentation, it's a live combat scenario. They'll attack, and we need to respond in real time. I understand that, she snapped, though her eyes said otherwise. I'm scheduling a strategy session with Maxwell Strategic. We'll create response scripts for every possible scenario. There are approximately 3 million possible attack vectors. Will you be scripting responses for all of them? Her glare could have frozen hell. That's why you're here, Clara. To handle the details while I manage the relationship. That afternoon, she assembled what she called a war room. 20 consultants from Maxwell Strategic, none of whom had ever prevented a single cyber attack. They created flowcharts, decision trees, and a 60-slide PowerPoint titled Digital Defense Excellence, the Helix Core Advantage. I sent her a single email. Recommend focusing on system fundamentals rather than presentation materials. The Pentagon will evaluate our actual defense, not our slides. Her response: Clara, I've presented to Fortune 500 boards and congressional committees. I know how to handle high-stakes demonstrations. Focus on your technical tasks. I did exactly that. I spent the next 3 days reviewing every line of code, every protocol, every possible vulnerability. But I reviewed them on my system, not hers. Her simplified, colorful, user-friendly interface wouldn't show her what she needed to see. It would only show her what she wanted to see: green lights and smiley faces while Rome burned. Sunday night. I sent her a final warning, documented and time-stamped. Ms. Bellamy, critical concerns regarding Tuesday's demonstration. Your simplified alert system cannot differentiate between attack types. The response scripts won't account for adaptive threats. You need minimum 200 hours of system training to recognize critical patterns. Recommendation: utilize original Aegis protocols for the demonstration. Your current configuration has an estimated 15% success probability against Pentagon-level attacks. C. Morgan. Her reply came at 11:47 p.m. Your concerns are noted but pessimistic. Maxwell Strategic has assured me our approach is sound. I've led digital transformations at 3 companies. I can handle this. I saved the email chain to 3 different servers. Then I sent a message to General Harlow through our secure channel. System ready for Tuesday demonstration. All protocols active, executing as directed by current leadership. His response was unusual, longer than his typical brevity. Clara, we're aware of the internal changes. Tuesday's exercise will be comprehensive. Ensure all systems are documented and accessible. Some tests reveal more than technical capabilities. Monday arrived with Evelyn in full performance mode. She held 3 rehearsals, practicing her talking points while her consultants nodded approvingly. She'd memorized buzzwords, statistics, and even a few technical terms she pronounced incorrectly but confidently. Remember, she told the assembled team, we're not just showing them security, we're selling them confidence. When they attack, we respond with poise and precision. Tom from legal pulled me aside after the meeting. She has no idea what's coming, does she? She's been warned multiple times in writing. That's not what I asked. I met his eyes. No, she has no idea. That evening, I did something I'd never done in 7 years. I went home at 5 p.m. There was nothing left to prepare. The system was ready. The documentation was complete. The stage was set. As I walked past Evelyn's office, she was still there with her consultants, rehearsing her opening remarks. Good evening, General Harlow. Today, we're excited to demonstrate how Helix Core's innovative approach to cybersecurity represents the future of defense technology. I wondered if she'd practiced what to say when everything went wrong. Probably not. In her world, things didn't go wrong. Daddy had always made sure of that. But tomorrow, at 10 a.m. sharp, Daddy wouldn't be able to help. Tomorrow, she would face the same adversaries I'd fought in darkness for 7 years. Only this time, everyone would be watching. I paused at the elevator, looking back one last time. She stood at the whiteboard, drawing circles and arrows, explaining to her nodding consultants how the simplified response matrix would revolutionize cyber defense. In less than 12 hours, she would learn what I'd known all along. In cyberspace, confidence without competence wasn't just useless, it was fatal. Tuesday, 10 a.m. arrived with military precision. The main conference room had been transformed into a command center, with screens displaying system status on every wall. General Harlow appeared on the primary monitor, flanked by 2 other officers I recognized from Pentagon security briefings. Ms. Bellamy. Harlow's voice filled the room. We'll begin with a baseline intrusion attempt. Your team has 5 minutes to detect and neutralize. Evelyn stood at the podium, her practiced smile faltering slightly. General, perhaps we could start with an overview of our innovative approach. The attack has already begun. Ms. Bellamy. Clock is running. The room erupted in chaos. Her consultants scrambled to their laptops, pulling up the simplified dashboards they'd designed. Green lights blinked cheerfully across their screens, showing all systems normal, while in my corner workstation, the real Aegis system screamed warnings in rapid succession. Where's the attack? Evelyn demanded, scanning her color-coded displays. Everything shows green. Check the subsidiary protocols, one consultant suggested. The what? Evelyn's composure cracked. Clara, what are you seeing? I looked up from my screen where 17 different attack vectors bloomed like deadly flowers. Port scan on 443 through 447. SQL injection attempt on the login portal. Man-in-the-middle attack on the authentication server. They're probing for weaknesses. Then stop them. I don't have authorization to access those systems anymore. You restructured the permissions last week. Remember? Her face went white. Override it. I need your administrator credentials. She typed frantically, her manicured nails clicking against the keyboard. Wrong password. She tried again. Wrong password. The simplified system she'd created had locked her out of her own defenses. 3 minutes remaining, General Harlow announced. Maxwell Strategic's lead consultant grabbed a keyboard. I'll handle this. He pulled up what looked like a WordPress dashboard. We integrated an AI-powered response system. The screens went red, not Evelyn's cheerful red frowny faces, but deep, system-critical red. The attackers had breached the outer perimeter. 2 minutes. Evelyn turned to me, desperation replacing arrogance. Fix this. I can't. You removed my access privileges. Only the Director of National Security can authorize emergency protocols. Then I authorize you. It needs to be done through the system, the one you're locked out of. She was sweating now, her perfect composure melting like ice in summer. The consultants typed furiously, accomplishing nothing. Their scripts and flowcharts lay abandoned on the table, as useful as bringing a business card to a gunfight. 1 minute. General Harlow. Evelyn's voice cracked. We need a pause to address technical difficulties. There are no pauses in warfare, Ms. Bellamy. 30 seconds. I watched the attack penetrate deeper, heading for the classified databases. In 10 seconds, they'd have access to everything. Evelyn stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Time expired, Harlow announced. Attack successful. Complete system penetration achieved. The room fell silent except for the hum of servers and Evelyn's ragged breathing. That was level 1 of 10, Harlow continued, his face impassive on the screen. Shall we proceed to level 2? We need a moment to recalibrate. Evelyn stammered. Ms. Bellamy. In the real world, our enemies don't wait for us to recalibrate. The Medusa attack your company stopped 3 weeks ago. That was level 8 intensity. Your predecessor handled it alone, at night, without any warning. My predecessor? Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. Clara Morgan, I assume she's present? I raised my hand from my corner. Here, General. Ms. Morgan, do you have access to activate proper defensive protocols? No, sir. Ms. Bellamy restructured the system permissions. Harlow's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Ms. Bellamy, you have 2 options. Restore Ms. Morgan's access immediately, or we terminate the exercise and the contract. Evelyn's hands shook as she turned to her laptop. I can't. I'm locked out. You locked yourself out of your own security system? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Richard Bellamy, who'd been watching from the back, stepped forward. General, surely we can… Mr. Bellamy. Harlow cut him off. Your company is responsible for protecting classified defense infrastructure. Your director of national security just admitted she cannot access her own systems during an active attack. Do you understand the implications? The silence stretched like a taut wire. Evelyn stood at the podium, her empire crumbling in real time. The consultants slunk back, distancing themselves from the disaster. The pretty presentations and colorful dashboards flickered on the screens, mocking us all with their cheerful incompetence. I need an answer, Harlow said. Can Helix Corps defend against the next attack or not? Evelyn looked at me, then at her father, then back at the screen. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She'd finally found a situation that Daddy's money and her MBA couldn't fix. General. I spoke into the silence. The Aegis system is fully operational on the legacy protocols. If given proper authorization, I can demonstrate full defensive capabilities. Who can provide that authorization? Richard Bellamy's voice was hollow. I can. Then do it. Now. As Richard typed the commands to restore my access, I saw Evelyn's reflection in my screen. She wasn't looking at me or her father or even General Harlow. She was staring at her simplified dashboard, still showing green lights and smiley faces, unable to comprehend how something that looked so perfect could fail so completely. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd wanted to make cybersecurity sexy, accessible, simple. But war was never simple. And in 30 seconds, when my access was restored, I would show everyone in this room why experience trumped aesthetics, why expertise couldn't be simplified into slideshow presentations, and why the person who writes the code will always hold more power than the person who colors it green. The moment my access was restored, the room transformed. My fingers flew across 3 keyboards simultaneously, pulling up the real Aegis interface, not Evelyn's cartoon version, but the raw, powerful system I'd built. Lines of code cascaded across my screens like a digital waterfall. Level 2 attack commencing, General Harlow announced. This time, I was ready. The attack came from 7 vectors simultaneously, a coordinated assault that would have overwhelmed most defense systems, but I knew every feint, every pattern, every possible combination. My hands moved without conscious thought, muscle memory from thousands of hours defending against shadows, block, redirect, isolate, contain, neutralize. The entire defense took 43 seconds. Attack repelled, I reported. No penetration, no data compromise. General Harlow nodded slightly. Level 5? They skipped 3 levels. This was the real test. Level 5 was nation-state complexity, the kind of attack that took down power grids and crippled governments. The screens erupted with alerts as hundreds of simultaneous breaches attempted to overwhelm our defenses. I partitioned my consciousness, one part tracking the SQL injections, another monitoring the DDoS attempts, a third watching for the real attack hidden beneath the noise. Because there was always a real attack beneath the noise. That's what Evelyn never understood. Cyber warfare wasn't about the attacks you could see. It was about the ones you couldn't. There, a subtle probe in the authentication protocol, almost invisible beneath the chaos. They were trying to create a phantom administrator account. I isolated it, traced it back, and turned their own attack into a honeypot, feeding them false data while documenting their methods. 6 minutes, 17 seconds, I announced. Attack neutralized, countermeasures deployed. We now have their signature for future recognition. The room was silent. Even the consultants had stopped pretending to help, watching me work with something between awe and fear. Level 8, Harlow said quietly. Evelyn gasped. That's Medusa level. Yes, it was. And this time, I wouldn't be fighting alone in the dark. This time, everyone would witness what I'd been doing for 7 years. The attack was beautiful in its complexity, a symphony of destruction orchestrated by experts. But I'd fought this battle before, knew every note of their deadly song. My screens filled with cascading data as I built walls, destroyed bridges, created false targets to waste their resources. Clara, Richard Bellamy's voice was hoarse. What are you doing? My job, I replied without looking up. The one your daughter was supposed to learn. 15 minutes. That's how long the level 8 attack lasted. 15 minutes of pure digital combat, no scripts, no flowcharts, no colorful dashboards, just raw skill against raw threat. When it ended, when the last attack vector collapsed and the system showed clear, my hands were trembling from adrenaline. Attack repelled, I said. System integrity maintained. General Harlow leaned forward on the screen. Mr. Bellamy, I need to speak privately with you and Ms. Morgan. Everyone else, please leave the room. The consultants fled like rats from a sinking ship. Evelyn stood frozen until her father touched her shoulder. You too, Evelyn. She left without a word, her designer heels clicking a retreat that sounded like surrender. When the door closed, Harlow spoke. Richard, I'm going to be direct. The Pentagon has been monitoring this situation for 3 weeks. We know about the restructuring, the simplified protocols, the appointment of an unqualified director. Richard's face was ashen. General, I can explain. No need. We've seen enough. The contract explicitly states that all critical positions must be filled by qualified personnel. Ms. Morgan has been the only thing standing between you and contract termination. Harlow pulled up a document on screen. This is the Black Swan Protocol. It's been part of your contract from day one, though I doubt you read that far into the fine print. It states that in situations where corporate decisions endanger national security, the Pentagon reserves the right to designate essential personnel. What does that mean? Richard asked. It means Clara Morgan isn't just your employee anymore. She's a designated critical asset. Any action that removes her from her position or diminishes her ability to protect our systems constitutes a breach of contract worth $1.8 billion. The number hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Furthermore, Harlow continued, we're initiating a new structure. Ms. Morgan will report directly to us. She'll maintain a presence at Helix Core, but her authority supersedes any corporate hierarchy when it comes to security decisions. Richard's jaw worked soundlessly. You're taking over my company? No. We're protecting our interests, and our interests require Clara Morgan, not your daughter's MBA theories. Harlow turned to me. Ms. Morgan, are you willing to accept this designation? I thought about 7 years in the shadows, 7 years of being invisible, 7 years of protecting people who didn't even know my name. Then I thought about Evelyn's simplified dashboards and smiley faces. Yes, General, I accept. Good. Richard, you have 24 hours to restructure accordingly. Evelyn can keep her title if you want. God knows we don't care about corporate politics. But Clara Morgan runs security. Non-negotiable. The screen went black. Richard Bellamy stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. The man who'd built an empire, who'd never heard no from anyone except his daughter, had just been told his empire existed at someone else's discretion. Clara, he started. Mr. Bellamy, I cut him off, standing for the first time in hours. You promised me that position. You looked me in the eye and lied. Then you gave it to someone who nearly destroyed everything I've built. So please, don't. I gathered my things, my hands steady now. I'll need a new office. Top floor, Evelyn can keep mine. I'm sure she'll want to redecorate anyway. As I walked past him toward the door, he called out, "This wasn't personal, Clara." I stopped, turned, and met his eyes. No, it wasn't. That's what makes it worse. The paperwork arrived at 10:17 a.m. the next morning, not to Helix Corp, but to my personal attorney. The Pentagon had restructured the entire contract, creating a new entity, Morgan Systems, LLC, a single-person consultancy with one client and one purpose, protecting national defense infrastructure. The contract value, $1.8 billion over 10 years. I signed it with the same pen Evelyn had used to autograph her MBA diploma, which still hung in what used to be my office. Richard Bellamy called an emergency board meeting that afternoon. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. I watched the security feed from my new office, top floor, corner suite, the one that had been reserved for future expansion. The board members' faces told the story: shock, anger, resignation, and finally, the cold calculation of money lost. Helix Corp's stock dropped 18% in 6 hours. Evelyn lasted another 3 days. She tendered her resignation in a letter that blamed strategic differences and evolving career objectives. The real reason was simpler. Without the Pentagon contract, she was a director of nothing. Her simplified dashboards and colorful presentations meant nothing when there was nothing left to defend. She stopped by my office on her last day, designer box in hand. "You planned this," she said, "not a question." "No, I just documented it." "You could have helped me, taught me." I looked up from my screens for the first time. "You never asked. You had all the answers, remember? Fresh perspectives, strategic relationships." She set something on my desk. The Employee of the Month plaque from my old cubicle. The one recognition I'd received in 7 years. "I found this in storage. Thought you might want it back." After she left, I threw it in the trash. I didn't need their recognition anymore. General Harlow visited in person the following week. He stood at my window, looking out at the city 40 floors below. "You could have stopped her earlier," he said. "Prevented the whole mess." "Yes. Why didn't you?" "Because sometimes people need to see the disaster to understand why the wall exists." Evelyn, Richard, the board, they all thought I was replaceable because they never saw what I was protecting them from. And now? Now they know. He nodded slowly. "The new contract structure ensures this won't happen again. You report to us, not them. Your position is permanent, protected, and completely autonomous." "What about Helix Corp?" "They'll survive. Companies always do. They'll find other contracts, other revenue streams, but they'll never forget the day they lost $1.8 billion because they valued an MBA over actual expertise." That was 6 months ago. I still work from the same building, but everything else has changed. Richard Bellamy nods respectfully when we pass in the elevator. The board members who once ignored me now send personal invitations to strategic meetings. The employees who used to see me as the ghost in the machine now understand I was the machine. But the biggest change is the silence. Not the oppressive silence of being ignored, but the respectful silence of being feared. They know what I can do. They know what I protect. And they know what happens when they forget. Last week, I received an email from Evelyn. She's working at a startup in Silicon Valley, something about making healthcare more accessible through innovative design. She asked if I'd be a reference. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, light the way forward. Today, my screens show the same cascading data they always have. Threats emerge, evolve, attack, and are repelled. The Pentagon sends their monthly reports. The check's clear. The empire I built in code continues to stand. But now it has my name on it. They thought I would stay silent when they replaced me. They thought I was just a line of code in their corporate machine, easily overwritten. They were wrong. Because in the end, the one who writes the code doesn't just control the system, we are the system. And at 10:17 a.m., when I signed that contract with my own pen, in my own name, for my own company, I didn't just win. I deleted their entire game and wrote a new one. One where expertise matters more than connections, where competence trumps confidence, where the invisible become undeniable. The pen lifted from the paper. The revenge was complete. Not with shouting or lawsuits or dramatic confrontations, just with the quiet scratch of ink on paper and the transfer of $1.8 billion from their account to mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's letting them destroy themselves, then charging them for the cleanup. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If you enjoyed this tale of corporate revenge, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Clara's position? Your stories and perspectives make this community amazing. Until next time, keep writing your own code.